The carriage rolled steadily along the dry grass path, its gentle rattling matching the rhythm of the horses. Inside, two women sat, sisters, bound by blood and burden. You absolutely cannot make a scene this time, Alice. Do you understand? Chloe Verdier's voice was firm, her hand gripping her walking stick as she cast a sideways glance at her younger sister. But the last soiree was unbearably dull, Alice Verdier huffed, gazing out the window with a hint of mischief in her eyes. And how was I to know that just a few glasses of sherry would get me tipsy? She chuckled, lost in the memory. Anyhow, with you there, I'm sure this ball will be much more entertaining. You agree, don't you? Chloe offered a tired smile. I'm being serious, Alice. This event is hosted by Duke Thys himself. We can't afford any mistakes. She paused, then added more softly, You need to find a suitor. I know, Alice cut in quickly, her tone darkening. My betrothal is the only thing that can save us from financial ruin. Her gaze softened as she looked at her sister. Still, I've always dreamed of someone sweeping me off my feet. I'm sorry, Alice, Chloe whispered, her grip tightening on her cane. If it weren't for my leg, don't, Alice interrupted, springing to her side and grabbing her hand. You've done nothing wrong. This isn't your burden to bear alone. Her voice brimmed with fire. If anyone's to blame, it's Father. He poured our entire fortune into Mother's medical care and neglected the estate entirely. Chloe tried to stifle a laugh. And let's not forget, 3 years ago, despite our family's ruin, he opened our castle to Duke Thys's army. Alice grinned. He may be our father, but I can't tell if he has a heart of gold or is simply a fool. The sisters' laughter faded as a shadow crossed Chloe's face. Have you heard the rumors about Duke Thys? Alice asked. None of them are good. She leaned in. They say he fathered several illegitimate children, only to have them executed in secret. That he's cruel, merciless, and if you get on his bad side, title or not, you're done for. Alice, Chloe said sharply. I know, Alice said, waving it off. We're lucky to even be invited. But still, we shouldn't be mingling with someone so dangerous. Let's just hope we don't run into him. Chloe didn't respond. She bit her lip and clutched her cane, whispering to herself, You must not be afraid. Her mind drifted to 3 years earlier. 3 years ago, the Verdier gates had opened wide, welcoming the Imperial army as it retreated through the cold winter. Chloe, the Viscount's eldest daughter, limped quietly through the halls, tending to wounded soldiers. Is it true she's a cripple? A soldier whispered. How's she supposed to help anyone like that? Another murmured. Leave her be, a third said. The cripple just wants to help. From afar, Viscount Verdier watched his daughter. She's not perfect, he muttered, but at least she's easy on the eyes. Later, in her room, a servant bowed. His lordship requests you leave the wounded to his men. I understand, Chloe answered quietly, shutting her door. Did I worry, Father? She wondered. She peered out the window at the injured soldiers. Nobility must serve the weak, that's what I've always believed. Suddenly, a voice rang out. Attention! The soldiers straightened at once. Greet your commander, came the command. Chloe peeked through the curtains. There he stood, tall, solemn. Earlier today, he said grimly, I received news of my father's death. Wilhelm von Thyssie was beheaded, his head displayed upon castle walls. Gasps and sobs echoed across the field. You, he pointed to one man. Do you wish to return home? The soldier stammered. Yes, my wife recently gave birth. I've yet to see my child. Another spoke up. My mother is sick. I left her alone. My brother needs me, said a third. He'll starve otherwise. My betrothed awaits me, a fourth added quietly. Chloe listened, moved by the pain in their voices. I, too, have yet to recover my father's body, the commander declared. But we must remember, this war isn't governed by God's mercy. It's our duty to fight. For House Thys's pride. For dignity. The commander's eyes burned with fierce conviction. That was Chloe's first glimpse of Damien Ernst von Thys, a man wrapped in rumors and tragedy, whose presence would soon entangle with her fate. Chloe watched him closely from her window. It's now up to you to transform all the desperation and longing you just showed into action, she thought. As if in answer, Damien raised his voice boldly before his men. It is now time to turn that longing into victory, he declared. The soldiers erupted, cheering his name. Thys! 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 He stood still, arms folded, watching them with quiet intensity. But then, suddenly, His eyes shifted upward, their gazes locked. Chloe gasped. She ducked in a panic, but her elbow knocked over a plate on the table beside her. It crashed to the floor, shattered. She dropped to her knees, hiding by the wall, one hand clamped over her mouth. Did he just look at me? She thought. She peeked out again. The Duke was walking away, calm and composed as the cheers continued. She exhaled deeply. I could never stay so composed, not after hearing of my father's death, she thought. Her gaze turned soft. Chloe knelt, folding her hands in prayer. Please, she whispered. Allow these soldiers to return home. Let them care for the ones they love. Let their loyalty bear fruit in battle. Meanwhile, far below, Damien paused. He glanced back up at her window. The next morning, Chloe woke at dawn. Stepping out cautiously, she whispered, I should hurry and return before anyone notices. She moved quietly with her walking stick when a voice called out, Lady Chloe? She froze. Gilles? She said, turning, just as her foot slipped. She stumbled, but he caught her just in time. You saved me, she murmured, her cheeks slightly flushed. You shouldn't be out here. His lordship asked you to stay in your room, Jill said, flustered. I'm only collecting medicinal herbs, Chloe replied, showing him her basket with a bright smile. I can do that for you, he offered. And risk you picking something poisonous again, like last time? She teased. Jill's flushed red. Well, I'll feel more at ease if I gather them myself, she said gently. He hesitated, then bowed. Yes, my lady. Do be careful. As she walked away, Chloe smiled to herself. When we first met, his head barely reached my shoulder. He's grown so much. In the forest. Chloe gathered herbs carefully. Everyone else is doing their part. I must be useful too. Suddenly, the rustle of leaves caught her attention. She looked up and froze. Duke Thissy? He was standing just ahead, alone. No one else knows about this spot. What's he doing here? She tried to step away quietly. Crunch! A dried leaf underfoot. Who's there? The Duke's voice rang out. She gasped and dropped her basket. I asked for your name, he said, stepping toward her. My apologies, Your Grace, she bowed deeply, limping slightly. I'm Chloe Verdier, daughter of Viscount Verdier. He eyed her with cool detachment, stepping closer. I've noticed a pattern, he said coldly. Since last night, it seems the Viscount's daughter has a habit of spying. He met her gaze sharply. Like a little rat. I apologize if I've offended you, Your Grace, Chloe said calmly, though her voice was tight. But I swear on my name, I wasn't spying just now. Damien crossed his arms. So, you admit you were, yesterday. Chloe's eyes widened in disbelief. What? Did your father send you? Damien asked coolly. Told you to throw yourself at me? Seduce me? She was stunned. How could he think that? Damien smirked. So Lord Verdier isn't as naive as he seems. Ambitious man. That's not the case, Chloe said, bowing her head respectfully. Oh, then why put on a show, treating my soldiers' rotting wounds like some saint? His tone was clipped, dispassionate. House Verdier may be low in rank, but that sort of behavior hardly fits a noblewoman, especially one in your condition. Is this really the same man I saw yesterday? Chloe thought, her grip tightening around her walking stick. How cruel. I only meant to help the soldiers who risk their lives for their families, she said firmly. I never expected my title to become an issue. My late mother taught me that nobility should serve the weak and wounded. That's what it means to be noble. Damien gave a short, almost mocking laugh. The comportment of nobility? He stepped closer. Chloe Verdier, he said quietly, has it never occurred to you that trying to do more than you can might be selfish? A nuisance, even? He leaned in slightly. If you'd heard the things the soldiers whispered about you as you limped between them, would you still hold your head so high? Chloe flinched. If the Viscount had overheard them, he continued, brushing a strand of her hair aside, were I him, I would have had their heads for mocking my daughter. He looked down at her. These men have seen horror. Do you understand what that does to a person? And here you are, wandering around before sunrise, dragging that leg. Chloe stayed silent, tension rising in her chest. This forest may be part of the Verdier estate, she said, steadying her voice. No one enters these grounds without permission. It's safe. Damien tilted his head. Safe? Yes, she repeated. A faint smirk appeared on his lips. Would you still claim that, if I did this? Before she could react, he snatched her walking stick from her grasp and tossed it out of reach. Wait, what are you? She began, panicked. A harsh thud echoed. Chloe looked down. He had struck something, a snake, piercing its skull with her cane. There's always danger in the forest, he said evenly. You were reckless to think otherwise. He returned the stick to her. It's damaged, but it should get you back to the castle. No, thank you, she said, still dazed. Ha, so you've got a bit of a temper, Damien murmured, almost amused. That's unexpected. Without warning, he crouched and reached for her skirt, lifting the hem to reveal her injured leg. Is it hereditary? He asked. Chloe flushed with embarrassment. Why? Why must you be so rude? He paused, expression unreadable. You're too sensitive, he said flatly. I asked a simple question. You took it as an insult. He stood. Letting emotions rule you leads only to defeat, Lady Chloe. I'm not a soldier, she replied with composure. I don't fight wars. Life is war, he said, cutting her off. Especially for someone like you. That may be, she said, standing straighter, but it still gives you no right to pry into my life. I only offered advice. Your refusal to thank me suggests I struck a nerve. He's cruel, Chloe thought. I couldn't have been more wrong about him. With respect, Your Grace, she said at last, I have 2 things to say. Go on, he said, motioning with a nod. First, she said, steady and direct, about the cane you damaged. I'd like a replacement. I'll have the carpenter handle it when I return to the barracks, he replied with a shrug. No, she said firmly. I want one made from the birch trees on the Thys estate. His eyes narrowed. What? You said yesterday you'd return victorious from the war, she continued. Once you do, and you return to your estate, I'd like you to make me. Damien suddenly reached out, his hand cupping her face. What if I gave you something better? He said softly, silencing her. It seems your father definitely wants something more, Damien said softly, his hand still resting against Chloe's cheek. Chloe calmly pushed it away. Which brings me to my second point. She met his gaze squarely. If my father ever praised his daughters to you, it was out of love, not strategy. He may care deeply for us, but he's not deluded. He knows House Verdier is far beneath House Thys in rank. Her voice was steady, her eyes unwavering. You're not the only man who would hesitate to involve himself with someone impaired. I'm sure most men would feel the same. Save your self-disparagement for your journals, Damien replied coolly. There's no disparagement in truth. Chloe said firmly as she turned, walking away with a slight limp. I'd like to make something clear, she added without looking back. You're free to pity me, but you have no right to assume I'm unhappy, or that my life is a war. He took a step forward, his tone more serious. Does that mean you're happy? Living like this? Chloe paused. My life may not change, she admitted. But I'm content. Living peacefully on the land where I was born. For the rest of my days, that is happiness to me. She didn't remember the walk back to the castle, only the bitter morning wind curling around her like the snake she had seen in the forest. Lady Chloe, the Duke and his men have just left, Jills announced, waking her from a restless sleep. Thank you, she murmured, eyes still heavy with memory. Now, 3 years later, their carriage arrived at Castle Rose, seat of House Thys. We've arrived, the coachman called. Chloe and Alice stepped down together. This entire castle used just for the Duke's seasonal entertainment? It's absurdly extravagant, Alice said loudly. Alice, lower your voice, Chloe cautioned. Whew, I'm already exhausted, Alice sighed, leaning against the wall. Lady Alice Verdier? A soft voice called. Alice brightened instantly. Oh, Lord Cormier. The man bowed with a warm smile. Would you do me the honor of the next dance? He asked, offering his hand. I'd be delighted, Alice said, beaming. And this is my sister, Chloe. Chloe bowed gracefully. It's an honor, Lord Cormier. The honor is mine, he replied, then hesitated slightly, his eyes falling to the cane in her hand. Perhaps? May I? No need, Chloe said gently. Just watching everyone dance is joy enough. She took in the vibrant ballroom, music, laughter, silk, and sparkle. She watched her sister spin across the floor in Lord Cormier's arms, the past slowly retreating behind the music. No one's mentioning Alice's outburst at the last ball, Chloe thought. And Lord Cormier seems kind. Steady. A good match. Still, her grip on her cane tightened. Does this mean I owe the Duke some thanks? I'd rather avoid him, but that wouldn't be proper. Her thoughts returned to the forest. Why did he invite us? Was it because Father helped him during the war? She frowned. He didn't seem like someone who values kindness. Suddenly, murmurs rippled through the crowd. The music slowed. Dancers paused, turning toward the stairs. He's here. Duke Damien descended, each step echoing through the grand hall. Murmurs swelled. Look, it's the Duke, someone whispered. He walked with quiet authority, his hand resting near his sword. Chloe lowered her gaze, hoping not to be noticed, but he stopped, right in front of her. She felt his presence before hearing his voice. Greetings, Lady Chloe of House Verdier, he said with a subtle smile. I remain greatly indebted to your father, the Viscount, for what he did 3 years ago, he announced, his voice carrying across the ballroom. I had hoped to thank him in person, but duty has kept me too long. There were gasps among the guests. Chloe steadied herself. Thank you for accepting my invitation, he added. It's an honor to be here, Your Grace, she said politely, still avoiding his gaze. Then, unexpectedly, Damien raised a hand. If it isn't too much to ask, may I have this dance? Chloe froze. What's going through his Grace's mind? Someone whispered in the crowd. Did he not see her cane? Another murmured. Unlikely. She must have offended House Thissy somehow. Poor thing, came a quiet voice. Chloe steadied herself. My sincerest apologies, Your Grace, she said calmly. But I'm afraid I'm not a proficient enough dancer for you. He hasn't changed, she thought. Are you turning me down because you've had too many offers and I'd have to wait my turn? Damien asked with a teasing edge, stepping closer. She flinched subtly. If that's not the case, then I hope you're not trying to refuse me, he said with a grin. Chloe gripped her cane tighter and looked away. I'd very much like to dance with you, he added, but was interrupted. Are you tormenting a poor woman, Aunt Damien? A voice called from across the ballroom. Damien turned. Can't you see she's about to cry? Said the man. Johannes, the first Prince of Swanton and Damien's cousin. He approached, smiling easily. She already declined you. It's not exactly gentlemanly to press on. He rested a hand on Damien's shoulder. Did war make you forget how to behave? Requesting a dance isn't exactly improper, Damien said dryly. And I assure you, she isn't the type to back down easily. Johannes looked unimpressed, then turned to Chloe. My apologies on my cousin's behalf. How uncouth of him. With respect, Your Highness, Chloe responded, raising her eyes to meet his. I believe His Grace was simply concerned that I might be left standing alone due to my condition. There's no need for an apology. Johannes raised a brow, impressed. What a clever young lady. Your name? I am Chloe, eldest daughter of Viscount Verdier. Ah, House Verdier. He reached for her shoulder lightly. I'd like to meet the man who raised such a bold and beautiful daughter. Chloe shifted uncomfortably. I'm here with my younger sister today, not my father. Come to think of it, where is Alice? She thought, scanning the room. She was here a moment ago. Introduce her to me later, Johannes said, already withdrawing. I'm rather busy at the moment. Come on, Damien. Stop scowling. The prince moved off, surrounded by admirers. Chloe's unease deepened. Where did Alice go? Please, not again. Well, where is your sister, Lady Chloe? Damien asked, noticing her distracted expression. She flinched at the question. The ballroom is so large, I can't spot her. If I may, I'll go look for her. Damien smirked, touching her hand lightly. Do you remember our little agreement? About your cane? Unless you're handing me a new one, please let go, she said softly. You'll get it soon, he murmured, then suddenly took her cane. Your Grace, Chloe exclaimed. Ah, so you've gotten a new one, Damien observed. It seems you're too worried about your sister to glare at me this time. She turned away, unwilling to engage further. It wouldn't do for her to be inebriated and indisposed again, would it? He added mockingly. Come, the castle is vast, so as its master, I'll guide you. He extended his hand. After a pause, she took it. In the garden. Outside, the wind had picked up. The two walked side by side. Am I moving too fast? Damien asked. No, Your Grace, Chloe replied, holding his arm. You've learned to walk well on your own, he noted, feeling her tremble slightly. That must have been painful. You're too kind, she said, voice low, squeezing his arm. Still a fighter, he said. Or have you just gotten better at pretending? If only I hadn't let him take my cane, Chloe thought, silently. They passed through a hedge-lined path. The wind's strong tonight, Damien said, glancing at her sideways. Who did your hair? Pardon? I said, who put in your hair ornaments? I did, she answered. That explains the mess, he muttered. Please, return my cane. Shall I? He said, not stopping. I've been told a young woman was seen running into the garden not long ago. Alice. I had a feeling it might be your sister, he added. Chloe's heart sank. Please, Alice, don't be in trouble again. Then, soft panting, voices, the rustle of movement behind the hedges, they stopped. From the shadows, two figures emerged, entangled. Chloe's heart dropped. Alice, she whispered in shock. There was no mistaking her. Alice was in a man's arms, flushed, breathless, lost in the moment.